What up, peeps? Monomahus here, and today I'd like to talk to you about Christian Zionism and Michael Pence, our current Vice President. Anyway, before I could do that, though, I want to give a little backstory, if you don't mind. And I want to do that by making a demonstration. What am I holding up here? It's a quarter. In reality, though, it's 2 quarters. If I had stopped and just said it was a quarter, your perception of reality would have been misguided. And I would have been the one who was misguiding you, knowingly. Okay, why am I doing this? Because perception is based on reality, but reality itself can be malleable. Okay, it's something you got to think about. Why am I saying this? Because heresy is very much like what I just did with the 2 quarters. I told you it was 1, when in reality it was 2. Okay, I believe it was Metropolitan Maximus of Pittsburgh, blessed memory, who said that heresy is perhaps a truth stretched a little too far. I like that. Heresy is based on truth. But it's a distorted truth. It becomes distorted, or the truth itself is distorted from the very get-go. The first grievous heresy, of course, was probably Gnosticism, which said that Jesus was not a physical human being. After that came Arianism, which said that Jesus was just a man, or in its more elevated forms, that he was a Defteros Theos, a second god, or a subordinate god, demigod, so to speak. And then you had your various triadological heresies and so on and so forth. Which brings us to Christian Zionism. Excuse me. Okay. What is Christian Zionism? There's been a little bit of a back and forth on the blog about a month ago about Christian Zionism. Some people said, well, I've never heard of it. And another person said, well, I never heard about it until you commented on it and I Googled it, which is all good. I'll give you the short story of what Christian Zionism is and why we are dealing with something that affects not just religion, but also culture and politics, which are the 3 pillars that we deal with here on Monomahus. Okay? So it's kind of a 3-in-1 type of thing today. Anyway, so let's get right to it. First of all, let's get the preliminaries out of the way. Michael Pence is a fine man. As governor of Indiana, he was, by all accounts, a good governor. As a vice president, there's been no scandal associated with him. He's a stalwart Christian gentleman, a good conservative, solid in every sense of the word. A moral man. Unfortunately, he's also a Christian Zionist. Okay. Now, what is Christian Zionism? So let's finally get right to it. Christian Zionism is the belief, ultimately, that there are 2 covenants. One for the Gentiles, which is found in the church, and another one for Jews, which is found within what we call now Rabbinic Judaism or Rabbinicism. Some would call it Talmudism. So, what's the upshot? Well, I mean, freedom of religion. Can't the Jews be Jews? Can't the Christians be Christians? The Muslims be Muslims? Yeah, freedom of religion. I get that. The trouble is, within the precincts of Christianity, this is a heresy. It's a false teaching. The church is for everybody. Okay? It's for the Jews first, then the Greeks. It's for the blacks and the whites. It's for the Serbs and the Bulgars. It's for the Chinese and the Japanese. It's for everybody. Okay? And here's where it gets really sticky. The church is Israel. Okay? We are Israel. Now, there's a nation on the east coast of the Mediterranean which was founded in 1948, which goes by the name of Israel. Okay, they have the right to call themselves what they want, but that is a nation state, and they've appropriated the name Israel for themselves. More accurately, they should probably be called Judea, because they're basically they're the remnants of the tribe of Judah, and a little bit of Benjamin and a little bit of Levi, which has survived since the fall of Babylon, and then when the Romans exiled them and destroyed the Second Temple. So that's neither here nor there, though, because we are Israel. So where did this idea of Christian Zionism come from? Well, it came from a guy named Cyrus I Scofield, who lived in the turn of the century, the 19th, 20th century. He was a Dallas businessman, and he took it upon himself to annotate the King James Version of the Bible. And he put copious notes in the, in the footnotes and on the sides. And he came up with this interesting theory of dual covenants. And not only that, but dispensations, ages of dispensations throughout created time. Whereas the church believes that there was an old covenant and a new covenant. He believed that, yeah, that's true, there were the two covenants, but there were several sub-covenants within the each of these two covenants. Okay? And the New Testament is divided into basically the time of the Gentiles, which according to some eschatological musings ended in 1914 or 1918, right around the time of the Great War, and the restoration of the temple. Okay, so according to this theory, the Jews don't have to convert to Christianity because they're being used by for God's eschatological purposes. And Israel is the modern nation state of Israel fits into this plan. Now, again, people have a right to have a nation state of their own. It's totally understandable. I'm not arguing that point one way or the other. However, in this particular instance, we got some problems, and it's caused a whole lot of turmoil, not only in the Middle East, but throughout the world. It's inflamed the Islamic world significantly, and there's been blowback significant to us, 9/11, for instance. The interesting thing is the Zionist movement, which began in the mid-19th centuries under Theodor Herzl and his colleagues, has been was taken over. Excuse me. Let me back up. It insinuated itself, thanks to Scofield's revision of the Bible, into mainstream Protestantism. By the time of the 1920s, a lot of Protestants in America, specifically, but also in England, had accepted his dual covenant theory. Okay. Catholics now more or less have accepted it thanks to Vatican II with the document called Nostra Aetate, which means our times. We haven't, because we're Orthodox, and it's a heresy. Okay, that's the religious part of it. What about the cultural part? Well, because in America, and to some extent in England, it has become very popular among lower church Protestants, this has caused a political ferment to rise within the Republican Party. So much so that people believe that there are two covenants, that Zionism is correct, and that indigenous peoples can be misplaced or displaced from their original residences after many centuries of being there, and that Israel, because of this dual covenant, is allowed to perform atrocities and war crimes throughout the Middle East. This is not good. Okay? And it's based on a fantasy, and it's not based on reality. So now we get to the politics of it, which I pretty much have already just explained to you. Again, you can't disengage politics from culture and religion, or religion from politics. It's not ultimately possible, because remember when I showed you this quarter, which was really 2 quarters? Okay, that's what Scofield did. He came up with a false doctrine. Now, whether he knew it was false, and he was being paid by Zionist agents to do so, I don't know. Okay, all I know is that it doesn't matter in the end, because if he didn't know it was false, he was being deluded. Okay, so anyway, that's the long and short of it. Christian Zionism is a heresy. It has no place in the church. It's up to the church, the Orthodox Church, to extirpate it and to tell our Christian brothers why they're wrong. Anyway, Pax Vobiscum. Let's try to love one another, and adios.